Hi there, welcome to lesson 7, where we're looking at self-awareness explains your past challenges. Today now we're looking at how your past challenges gives a clue to what's going on around you, your limitations and your challenges. But you can only come to terms with those things when there is a level of self-awareness. Now, failure aren't always bad luck, as it were, but self-awareness helps you understand what you could have done better, either at work, in your relationship, or in life at large. And I'll be sharing just a bit of my personal story from my book or my autobiography, Atimoy, Anything is Possible. You see, while that book was being written, some things that I knew, perhaps I'd forgotten, came back fresh. And I got to realize that, okay, some of these traces, maybe right now they're just trickles, just little dots, but they're still there, of some deficiencies, some automatic thoughts that just pop up at some point. Actually, so this was where they came from. This was how they started. Again, back to James Clear, Atomic Habits, where he talked about how habits are formed. They are formed little by little, not like in an atomic bomb that just drops and destroys everything all at once. No, the destruction happens over time, but the habits are formed little by little, and they grow and they expand and become permanent. Now, for example, look at this illustration. When something happens and you don't question it, and then you take that thing as normal, over time, that normalcy doesn't just become normal, it becomes automatic. It's not even just normal, and you can't even question it. You're not even aware of it. Let me quickly give you this illustration. Now, there was this story that I read about, about this barracks where there was this general who was to come in to address. He was a new general, was come to address the soldiers there, and because he was small in stature, they had to build a pole jump, like a concrete pole jump for him, so he could stand on an elevated floor and be able to see down to the crowd of soldiers. Now, when they built the thing, before the next morning, some animals came, they messed it up, the thing was defaced. They rebuilt it again, and then the next morning again, the thing was defaced. So when they repaired it, before the day the general was to visit, they barricaded the thing so that no animal could walk on it to mess it up. And then on the day they came, he spoke, and it was a good one. They barricaded the place and covered it up again. Shortly after, that general was transferred elsewhere. Another general was brought in there. Now, when this general came in, he made some major changes. So some leaders of that cantonment, some top lieutenants were also transferred out of that place. Some of that new people were brought in there. Because this platform had always been barricaded and covered, nobody questioned it. And then this other lieutenant came, they worked in the barracks for such a long time. They didn't question, they just saw the thing. So it was, so we're meeting it, so shall it ever be. And then until this general came visiting, and then while he was doing site inspection, he asked what was there, and nobody could explain. He asked the others, nobody could explain. And then he went back to the books to check out, maybe they usually have all of these situation reports, kind of materials and books they keep. And then they found that that thing was just an ordinary, and the way they gathered it, in fact, what they did at some point was to put 4 soldiers, one at each corner, guarding, stopping anybody from coming close. Guarding just an ordinary cement and platform. They thought there was something there. And then when they checked the books and they saw there was nothing there, this was actually why they actually guarded it initially, because it was wet, animals were walking on it and messing and defacing it. And then now that they had to destroy it and then took it away. Do you see what self-awareness does? It makes you look at your past challenges and begin to say, oh, so this was the reason why this happens to me. This is the reason why I think this way. I'll use myself as an example. Now, growing up, my dad was a pastor in a church, Deeper Life Bible Church. It happens one of the biggest churches in Africa, perhaps in the world. Now, he was a leader there, and the church, well, that's still the church I attend, very strict, militant church. Very, very strict church in terms of, holiness, integrity, uprightness. They're very, very strict and vocal about it. Now, my dad used to tell us growing up that any child that made me get disciplined. Now, being disciplined means if your child is found misbehaving, maybe stealing, misbehaving with girls, your male kids, you'll be disciplined as you'll be stopped from preaching. So he said that any of us that get him disciplined, he will cut off our right ear. Now, I took that literally, so I avoided girls. And then also I was told then that when you touch a girl, literally you touch a girl like this, you could get pregnant. That was what I was told, and I believed it. So I avoided girls all my teenage lives. Growing up to my teenage years, I avoided them. It was even when I was in my 20s, I began to get close to very few girls. But still at that, and of course at the time my father had died. But then I still had this thought. Even I now knew, of course, it didn't mean literal cutting of my ear, but it meant it was going to punish the child severely. It would leave a scar on you, like cutting off your right ear. And I later got to know, okay, when you hold the girl's hand, she doesn't really get pregnant. But those things were still playing in the program, so I was very careful about girls. I saw girls as mysteries, their body, the way they behave. I didn't even know what they had in their body. Imagine that, even in my 20s. So I had that upbringing, which actually kind of affected me in terms of my mentality about ladies and women. Even up till now, yeah, I've been married for 13 years. I know that my mindset about women is still not as refined, as mature as it should be, as compared to my age mate who never had such hypnotic kind of belief growing up. And at an unconscious level, I still have that thought about them. Now, I'm using mine as an example that in your assignments, you can go back and think about what were the things you were told growing up or the challenges, difficulties you had that seem to unconsciously still affect you. You need to be self-aware of them. It's just like you have something covered, like the case of that platform. You need to uncover it and find out what exactly is it. And you might be surprised that more than 50% of what you've been told and you believed all your life are not true. And if they aren't true, oh my God, your eyes are opened. You're so self-aware now that you mean all I believed all this while, these are not true. With this awareness, that empowers you. So what new choices are you going to make? So growing up in a family of 11, 9 children, my dad, my mom, 11, so we could actually form a football team. Now we were poor. We're living in just a single room, all 11 of us. That was the house I grew up in all my childhood, part of my teenage years. Now we were poor. We didn't have money. We struggled to eat. We ate sometimes just once in a day. So it was 0-1-0. When you say zero means no food. So no breakfast, lunch, and then dinner. Then I was dull in school. I wasn't smart. At primary 5, I couldn't read. I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I stuttered so profusely that my stuttering was in such a dilapidating state. And then we're poor. I had tattered uniform. It's in my biography. If you need to get that book, if you need to know more about me, go on Amazon, Atimo, anything is possible. The book is there. So a lot about my story, you have it there. This was the life I grew up in. And I thought that that was how life was. When I looked at aeroplane, I thought it was meant for some people. It was not meant for everybody. The closest I got to an aeroplane was 15, 20 miles away. So driving in a bus, in a public bus. So usually when we go to church once in a month, this particular area of the church, so we drive in a bus, and this bus drives past an airport, and the bus is quite kind of an elevated truck. So from there you can look over the fence of the airport and can see those huge metals called aeroplane. That was the closest I got to an aeroplane, and I thought it was made for some people, not everybody. I never believed in my life I would ever enter a plane. My biggest dream in life was to even touch it, just touch an aeroplane. I'll be fulfilled in life. That was the upbringing I had. I never knew that there were cars that had air conditioner, because the one we had never had any. When it was hot, we warmed down. And when it was raining, we warmed up. And then we use our baby handkerchief or something to clean the windscreen because of the moist of our breath. It was in my teenage years. Anyway, that's a long story, but let me just share that. It was my teenage years. My old friend, his dad just got promoted at work and got an official car. And when they were test driving the car, I was walking on the street and they stopped for my friend to say hello to me. And they warmed down. And while I was saying hello to my friend, I sensed something cold coming from the car. It was later when I met him, I asked him, what was that thing inside your car? It was cold. And they told me that was air conditioner. And then, another day when his dad was home, he took me, they started the can, I dipped my hand into it. I couldn't enter, I just dipped my hand through through the door, and I was amazed. I didn't know there was anything like that. So these were upbringings I had, and I thought that that was how life was until I began to question them when I realized that that wasn't true, and then began to make new choices that has brought me to where I am. Quickly to our assignment and to the exercise for today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Come on, let's get on there. Go well.